one thing we all seem to notice when looking at props for these two games is one market seems to be jumping already, and that is Brock Purdy passing yards. Brock Purdy passing yards now up to 274 and a half. That is a big bump from yesterday when I think we were sitting in the mid 260s most places, including at BetMGM. So 274 and a half right now is a big jump. I've got a few angles on AFC props and one in particular on the NFC side that I know we want to get to. Erin's got a strategy she wants to discuss, but Joe, you've got a couple of ideas on the NFC side we should probably start with.
Yeah, that Purdy one's interesting, especially since he hasn't reached that mark in the last four games. Maybe that's weather related. Like, okay, hey, small hand stinks in the rain. Seen this a few times. And then, yes, exactly. Yeah, I'm looking at the tight end position. Of the four teams playing this weekend, Detroit is the worst by far. Yardage-wise, they've given up about 200 more than the other three teams going. Touchdowns, they've given up 3 to 4 more than all of the other teams playing. Over 1,000 yards allowed, 7 touchdowns to tight ends. Enter George Kittle. Had a pretty good game over the weekend. His prop set at 4.5 receptions, 58.5 yards. Now the touchdown number's down to plus 115. So the market's doing this. I bet on Kittle last week, and it was like 150, 160 range. And now we're down to plus 115 because of the soft matchup. But so I like the yardage. I mean, giving up over 1,000 this year, and it's Kittle. And if it's Debo out there, it's going to be a hobble Debo. So more and more reason that Kittle's going to be getting targeted in this game. So yardage, if I'm going receptions, yards, touchdowns, that's where I would go at 58.5. But I also noticed the longest reception. His longest reception last 6 games, 5 times he's had one of at least 32 yards. Remember the blown coverage we saw over the weekend. The number's 22.5 for longest reception. So against this defense, I need one pass to go for a catch and run of at least 23. That looks like a pretty good look to me. So a couple Kittle props, pretty appealing early in the week.
I was looking on the other side with a Lions player. We saw what Aaron Jones was able to do, and they really couldn't stop him. 108 yards on the ground. The Niners I think they looked kind of shaky trying to stop the run. So I know it's tough. Montgomery, Gibbs, what's going to happen? But I think Gibbs is the better back, and now would be the time to feature him and use him even more. I was looking at some different props. You could look at his total yardage. It's gone up at least a few yards. I mean, that was my biggest takeaway. Every hour, these are going up and up and up. There's just so few games to bet on that these numbers, especially with the star players, just keep going up. But so I looked at a market where I'm like, okay, maybe people don't look at longest rush as much as they're just looking at his total yardage or touchdowns or something like that. So Jahmyr Gibbs has gone over 14 and a half. That's the longest rush prop 12 times this season, and that includes the playoffs. So I was thinking that could be a way to bet Gibbs. I think he's more explosive than Montgomery, and they did give up some explosive runs to Aaron Jones. So I think that's one you probably will have to bet early because it's probably going to keep changing. All of these are. That was one thing I was thinking. Is there a way, like, there's no props really listed for like Jawan Jennings, but I was like, maybe we need to look at some players that people aren't focusing on, that aren't star names, to try to find an edge earlier in the week.
I wonder if they're going to be able to do that against San Francisco, and if it's not going to just come back to Goff has to sling it all over the yard 45 times and hope to keep pace with San Francisco. That's one script, right? The other script is they get down early and they just have to throw all day. And so Goff over 263 and a half. Again, over that in 5 of his last half dozen games. I think there's multiple ways you get there, which is why it makes a ton of sense.
We expect the Ravens to run the ball, but where's it going to go? Is it going to be Lamar? Is it going to be Gus, Justice Hill? Like which guys are they going to use? I was surprised to see that he has a rushing touchdown in only 4 games this year. I did not realize it was that few, and he's just barely plus money. So I think that's going to be a popular bet. before this playoff game this past week, he went 9 straight games without a rushing touchdown. I was like, what? That's crazy. So did they save him for this moment? We're like, okay, now it's worth it. Now it's worth putting your body on the line. Like, we're going to see more of it, or they go in the opposite direction. My angle would be, if you're going to bet this, bet Lamar 2+ touchdowns at plus 750, because when he runs it,
the value,
he's got a rushing touchdown in 4 games this year, right? 3 of them, he's got 2. So when he runs it, he runs it.
Yeah.
And he's sticking with it, and it's going to be a Lamar game, or maybe half your bet on the 2+. I thought that was interesting that 4 games is a rushing touchdown. 3 of them, he's gotten 2 touchdowns.
I hate to go back to the well, but there are 2 props that cashed last week, and I'm tempted to go back on them because I see Jared Goff, his game script, he's going to have to pass, right? Like, there's no way that Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery with lines of 45 and 47.5 are going to have that much success where Jared Goff is not throwing the football enough to go out there and win this game. So he's cashed this 2 straight already for us. And I have no problems running it back a third time because while the Niners do fantastic linebacking core, they're great within the hashes. The Lions have so many guys that have stepped up that they could spread the ball around. You look at the Reynolds brother, the Reynolds twins, essentially, Josh Reynolds and Craig Reynolds. Shout out to Craig Reynolds. He went to Kutztown, which is on the wall here, one of the conferences I worked in as an intern. He was playing in the league. He's amazing. Jameson Williams has stepped up for Detroit as well. So I look at all these options. I think they'll spread the ball out. Jared Goff over pass attempts is a good look, but I like his passing yards as the best bet.
I want to talk about a team that did make your list, and they've been quite fraudulent come March. First, it was North Texas. Then it was St. Peter's. Then it was Fairleigh Dickinson. Talk about Purdue. What do we do with this team? Do we just pass on any Purdue futures? Or is this going to be the year they actually aren't fraudulent in the tournament?
Yeah, I think I'm buying them. I think this is a team that can really do what they need to do. Like, Zach Edey, I think the narrative around him, and he's slow, he's plotting, he's this traditional big man. Like, I think he's kind of broken some of those things. His mobility, his ability to guard ball screens is way different. I think Purdue is starting to unlock what to do when you throw junk defenses at them. You can't just throw 3 guys at them. Remember in Fairleigh Dickinson game last year, they had horse shots. They are wide open from 3 guys just standing at the perimeter shooting wide open shots, and they couldn't convert. And this group feels a little bit different. And I'm starting to buy them just because I feel like they're so inevitable. Edey is just ridiculous. And Braden Smith is playing like a first-team All-Big Ten point guard right now. His pull-up jumper, the numbers with that have been fantastic all year, and they have different guys they can rotate in. Oh, and they're an awesome offensive rebounding team. It's just really hard to keep them under wraps. It feels like you need to pull in Nebraska and hit 13, 14, 15 threes to beat Purdue. You need some outliers to really beat them right now. So I feel as good about them as any team in the country right now. They have a really, really high floor.